Folks, the NHL is about to change forever. We've been talking about the 2024 draft and Macklin Celebrini for a long time, but now it seems like there might be one clear frontrunner in the Macklin Celebrini sweepstakes, and it is going to be a controversial one. And you probably guessed it already, Bedard's Chicago Blackhawks have the best odds for first overall, because of course they do. But what could the 2024 NHL draft order look like? What are the odds for first overall? Could Chicago get another first overall pick? Well, make sure you watch till the end as we dissect everything at the top of this 2024 draft, and hit that subscribe button if you're new for more prospect content just like this as we lead up to the 2024 draft this summer. Now, this 2024 NHL draft class has been a super fun one to talk about and to watch and to see develop, but really Macklin Celebrini has been at the top for the longest time and has really cemented himself as the number one guy. You can see, still 17 years old, doesn't turn 18 until this June, but you can see what he's been able to do at Boston University and just the consistency in his eliteness this year. 10 goals, 15 assists, 25 points in 15 games, and already is seemingly making a major impression with the U20 team for Team Canada, the World Juniors. You have this unreal play in a scrimmage, Celebrini coming through, number 14, unreal goal. So it seems like Celebrini is already cementing himself at an incredible first overall rate. Already at Boston University, he's one of the best players in the entire NCAA, and now is looking like one of Team Canada's best players as well, which is not much of a surprise, but it shows the quality that Celebrini has been able to bring. Personally, for me, I don't see Macklin Celebrini being at the Connor McDavid level or the Austin Matthews level, but I think a tier below that. A player like Jack Hughes that will bring some electrifying pace to the game with his smarts and his incredible hands and great agility. This is a player that will be a franchise face to practically every NHL team. If it's Chicago, though, he will probably have to go with second place. Let's talk about those odds, though, because now, a few months into the NHL season, we're starting to get a great idea of which teams will be at the bottom of the race, which teams will be contending for first overall. And we had a good picture a month ago of San Jose being one of the worst teams in the league, the worst team in the league, one of the worst teams in league history. But now the entire race has seemingly shifted. Here we look at the NHL standings and look at the NHL standings rated by points percentage, and you can see you have teams like Ottawa, Buffalo, Minnesota, Calgary in the dumpster. But when we look at it, the bottom 5 teams in point percentage, you got the Seattle Kraken, which is a major surprise, Columbus, which is not so much of a surprise. You got teams like Anaheim as well, who seemingly have taken big steps back after their great start to the season. Then you got San Jose, and last but not least, the Chicago Blackhawks, far and away right now in points percentage, the worst team in the league. And with just how historically bad San Jose was for the first month of the season, to see Chicago already in that last place spot is pretty surprising, but also the injuries they've had, losing Taylor Hall and a bunch of other players on the roster already to a roster that wasn't very good, that was going to be in the bottom 3 already. It's not really too much of a surprise that San Jose has caught some ground, kind of regressed back to their usual, while Chicago is still one of the worst in the league. As much as I've enjoyed San Jose having this hot streak, looking like in the wagon that they have, and in fact they've looked really good this last month, it has put themselves outside of the best odds for first overall, which I think in San Jose's case, I mean, Chicago, of course, already having Bedard, I think San Jose, especially this rebuild, needed that number one guy, needed a player like Macklin Celebrini, and I think outside of Macklin Celebrini, it's a lot of magic beans. Players like Cole Eiserman have dropped a little bit for me. You got players rising, sure, like Caden Lindstrom and Sam Dickinson, but I think outside of Macklin Celebrini, there's no for sure franchise face or somebody that's going to be this elite superstar. There's players that have potential for that and could have that, but still have, I would say, major weaknesses in their game, especially Cole Eiserman, who for some people would be a slam dunk at number 2, but besides his shot, he started to kind of regress a lot for me in a lot of different ways, and I think there's a situation here with San Jose, if they get outside that first overall pick, they're going to get a good player most likely, but maybe not the player that they need to really complete a rebuild. This is definitely not a draft coming up that, in my opinion, has the talent inside the top 10 that last year's draft hit did. You can't lose the lottery, get 3rd overall, and still get a player like Adam Fantilli in this draft, in my opinion. You probably can't have a player like Matvei Michkov at 7th overall, at least not up to that quality. To me, I think in last year's draft, there were so many superstar players here available, and this year there's a lot of guys that could be up to that level, but again, haven't necessarily shown it. It's a very D-heavy draft, which for San Jose, they obviously could really use in the prospect pool, but honestly, I still think they needed that next game breaker on the foregroup. Will Smith will be a great skilled talent, but he's not Macklin Celebrini. Nowhere close to that. But you look at Chicago and what they've drafted over the years, man, and they're already good. They already got their superstar. They already got a lot of forwards that can work off things. So anything after the Bedard draft is just, magic beans. It's whatever they want to do. And I think with Chicago, they're in a really unique position. Of course, already getting Korchinski too. They got a lot of deep prospects in the pool, but maybe not to that top 2 caliber. So maybe they still want to go after a player like Sam Dickinson or an Artyom Levshunov or something like that. But the point is, for Chicago, they don't need another first overall pick. They don't even need another top 3 overall pick. They already look like one of the best cores in the future. I think they already have the best prospect pool in the entire NHL. And at this point for Chicago, anything afterwards, again, is just extra for them and would be even more complimentary. If it's a Macklin Celebrini, though, I mean, that's your 1-2 punch. That is by far going to be one of the best 1-2 punches. I mean, after Leon and Connor are aways, that's the next elite 1-2. But you look at the Blackhawks lineup, and it's pretty incredible just how bad it is, and it's by design. Even though they added players, it was really to add players to put along Connor Bedard. That was really the only main purpose. They weren't adding players to be good or to be outside the top 5. They were adding players just to make sure that Bedard had somebody to play with. Obviously, Hall going away sucks, and Corey Perry, of course, leaving the team. But you still got players that are working well with him, like Philip Kurashev especially. Those two have been really good together. But besides that, Chicago, it's not unexpected that they're in this last place spot. This is a team that offensive, defensively, goaltending wise, I mean, you could just run down the lineup. It's not exactly the best lineup now. A lot of younger players, though, that are getting really good experience, but in Chicago's situation, yes, if you were able to get Macklin Celebrini, that 1-2 punch would kind of be ridiculous. But I think for Chicago, the best part for them would be the versatility. They drafted a lot of forwards over the years, players that were drafted as centermen like Frank Nazar and Oliver Moore, but they don't necessarily have to be centermen, especially if they were able to get Macklin Celebrini. I mean, hey, you might not even have to have Macklin Celebrini as a center. If he doesn't work out, you could put him to wing easily and he would be incredible. This is the situation that Chicago's put themselves in by great drafting and really drafting a lot of great positionally. You look at Chicago and the forwards they have coming up, and there's so many options there. If they were to get Celebrini, you could round out that top 6 pretty perfectly. And hey, it doesn't matter who's on the wing. If you got Connor Bedard and Celebrini there, that would instantly be amazing. And just like the options it has afforded Edmonton, you could also maybe have Celebrini and Bedard on the same line, which would be kind of ridiculous. But that's what's really scary as a Stars fan, a fan of some team in the Central Division. It is going to be a monster bloodbath if Celebrini somehow finds himself in Chicago. To me, at this point, I'm just hoping that they get like 3rd overall or something. I would take that at this point, honestly, with just how bad Chicago has been. They're going to get the best odds in the draft. At least it's looking like that. You go into Tankathon and look at all the teams and their first overall chances. Connor Bedard, Chicago Blackhawks, of course, with 25.5% chance. So a fourth of a chance to get that first overall pick again. And people might be confused about this because they put in new rules back in the 2021 draft that you can't win multiple first overall picks. Well, the thing is, you can't win more than 2 first overall picks in 5 years. So Chicago only winning 1, of course, is still eligible for another first overall pick, which makes things difficult for them, for other teams that are hoping to steal a first overall pick from Chicago. You got San Jose with 13.5, Anaheim with 11.5 as well. I think we'll see probably Anaheim get a little bit higher when the season is done. They've had a horrible losing streak lately, and I think that will eventually correct itself a little bit. But I expect Chicago and San Jose to still be in that battle when it's all said and done for number 1, number 2. But let's be honest, it will probably be Chicago getting that first overall pick, getting the best odds, because we just can't have nice things. But almost everything has come into Chicago's favor so far, with San Jose getting a lot better after their first month. Teams as well that should be in the dumpster, or at least contending for the dumpster, like Montreal, overachieving at this point so far. And there's really just not a lot of tanking teams out there. Really, it's just Chicago and San Jose that I think are teams that are actively trying to get worse every single year. Those are the 2 teams, at least, that to me have been the most in the rebuilding direction, have actively made trades to get worse and worse so they can get better draft position. We have Montreal, they've kind of been debatably in that, but you've got teams like Columbus and Anaheim that wanted to take big next steps this year that haven't been able to get that. At the same time, though, Chicago just doesn't have have that much competition. And now with San Jose looking a lot better, it could be their first overall pick to lose. And again, looking at Celebrini, to me, this is a player that could be a franchise face on his own, could be a #1 player on a team that wins his Stanley Cup when it's all said and done. But you have, of course, Bedard and Macklin Celebrini together, and it's over for the league. I mean, that is an incredible duo that, although especially McDavid and Draisaitl, they of course haven't been able to get the results that they would have wanted, so nothing is guaranteed in Chicago, and the depth they'll have coming up throughout the prospect pool. I think for Chicago, if they're able to get another top prospect like this, another for sure superstar, then it might as well be over for the Central Division, man. I mean, they are building something special here, and obviously Bedard and the Lucker that they got there, it's really the start of that, but Celebrini would be, I think, the end of that. I think we'd see both of these players in the NHL next year. Celebrini is going to be in the NHL next year, and he's probably going to look pretty good still, even though he is a lot younger. But I do think he'll probably be in that Jack Hughes tier where he might take a little bit of time to get adjusted to the NHL, but still, he's been incredible in the NCAA, and that's great competition there with Boston University. And even though Boston University has been one of the better teams in the league this year in the NCAA, he's been a driver of the bus. He has been one of the best NCAA players, if not the most consistent offensive driver in the entire league, and it's commendable. At 17 years old, he's going to be a stud, and just like Bedard was a younger player in his draft last year, Celebrini has still been able to make an impression just like him. At this point, though, if we're just going for who do I want to see win the draft lottery this year, it's easily San Jose. Even though they have been a much better team lately, I still want to see them be kind of bad, just bad enough to be in that conversation, at least be bottom 3. If they're outside the bottom 3, then I don't even know what's happening there anymore. But as long as they're in the bottom 3, hopefully second, hopefully with the best odds for the draft lottery, though I'm not sure how likely that is. But I still want San Jose to win. I still want them to be able to get this great talent and be able to build something special over there, because Sharks fans friggin' deserve it with how much turmoil that team has had lately, with how much turnover they've had as well, with how bad they've been really the past couple of years. They deserve something special here, though Chicago is obviously beating them in the horrible team wars. I mean, you just see how bad Chicago has been outside of Connor Bedard, and honestly, in terms of how bad they've been, they've found a way to be worse than San Jose, which I didn't think was possible. Outside of that, I wouldn't mind a team maybe like Calgary winning the draft lottery, maybe Columbus would be fun, a 1-2 of Celebrini and Fantilli wouldn't be bad, even if it's not on the level of Bedard and Celebrini. But there's a lot of teams here that I think could make a push for it. We'll see how bad Columbus ends up being. But again, that's the thing, is I look at the teams right now, and there's not really a ton of teams that I think are going to be true tankers in the second half, or teams that are really going to be giving up completely. You'll have a few teams that will sell, obviously, but I still think Chicago and San Jose are really going to be the two teams battling out for it in the end. We'll see what happens, but it's going to be one heck of a race, y'all. Well, let me know in the comments down below, who do you guys think wins Celebrini in the end? Who are you rooting for? Do you think Chicago will get that first overall pick again? Let us know down below. And of course, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell if you haven't already, and share the video with all the hockey fans you guys know online, and click this card for all my 2024 draft content right in one playlist. My name is Nathan, and I will see you in the next one. Have a great day, and goodbye.